The Rangers are on the verge of becoming sellers, but Max Scherzer says he won't waive his no-trade clause if the Rangers do decide to sell off at the deadline. Why that could be the difference between the Rangers buying and selling at the trade deadline.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into today's show, talking about Max Scherzer not waiving his no-trade clause in an absolutely miserable way to end the longest winning streak of the season, this episode of Locked On Rangers is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. So check out Booking.com for your stay today. Now, last night, late, the Rangers lost their season-long 5-game winning streak on the backs of an absolutely brutal loss, for the Rangers had plenty of chances to take the lead and go ahead and do some damage on this Angels squad and finish off the sweep. But alas, they could not finish off sweeping their second series in a row, and they head to Houston on a sadder flight coming off of this 7-2 loss. And that may be the big story on the field for the day, but off the field, Max Scherzer gave an interview, and well, I didn't realize how much I would love Max Scherzer being on the Rangers because of his interview specifically, but I kind of do. The honesty and the enthusiasm that he brings to every interview, the willingness to talk, it's something that's not seen a lot in baseball players, and when Max Scherzer says something, boy, does he not hold back. So yesterday he went on the show Foul Territory with AJ Pierzynski, and he was talking about, he was asked by AJ, hey, are you going to consider waiving your no-trade clause this year? You've been traded a few times. The Rangers are not doing well. They're probably going to be sellers at the deadline. Would you waive that no-trade clause and go to a contender, because you have been pitching well, things are going well for you. You want to win. Is that something that you're going to do? And Max Scherzer said, quote, I'm not going to do that. I just don't think I even have to think about that. I think we're going to play better baseball, and it's going to be a moot point to even talk about that. I think you're going to win here, end quote. That is a huge, huge statement from Max Scherzer, and something that players don't normally talk about, am I going to be willing to waive my no-trade clause? I don't know. We'll see where we are, blah, 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 playing it like closer to the vest. And there's been a lot of urgency as of late. There's been a lot more urgency. It feels like, especially in this game last night, this team was a team that was playing tense, a team that was feeling the pressure, that knows that pretty much every game from now until the deadline, it feels like a must-win game. And I think that got them into a little bit of trouble. But getting this vote of confidence from Max Scherzer, hearing him say, no, I'm not waiving that no-trade clause. I'm going to win here. We are going to pull this out. We are going to figure this out. We are going to turn this around together. And I'm not doing that. That is a huge statement for him, because it lessens the Rangers' leverage of being able to, go and ask for these trades, go and, be sellers at the deadline. Teams will be like, I don't know if you're serious about this, so I don't, and it takes one of your biggest pieces off the board. Max Scherzer would be a very, very highly sought after trade piece, especially since, he's not going to be making all of that money. You're not going to have to do the thing that the Mets did in just eating a crap ton of money in order to get a prospect for him. He is going to be a free agent at the end of the year, but he's Max Scherzer, and he's not having a down year. He's going to be at the peak of his powers. The Rangers kind of bought a little low on him. They did give up Luis Angel Acuna, who was believe around a top 5 prospect at the time, depending on who you asked. Definitely a top 10 prospect in their system. Maybe a top 100 guy at the time. It was close. Maybe, I think Luis Angel I might have had him at number 3 at that point in the Rangers system, because Wyatt Langford was not yet a Texas Rangers prospect. Or maybe he just was, and I wasn't quite sure about where to rank him. But seems like he definitely should have been ranked ahead of him at the time. But all of that aside, one of your biggest, trade pieces, having a no trade clause and saying no, don't shop me. We're going to win here. We're going to turn this around. Gives you a little bit more runway. Gives you a little bit more time to figure things out, because the reason things felt so dire, there is, not quite half a season left, but almost half a season left. The Rangers are a little over 90 games into the season, not quite 100 games into the season just yet. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if they go on some big winning streak after the trade deadline if you've already traded off your pieces. I mean, it still does, and they still could pull things around, but you got to prove to the front office that selling off this year is not the best move. This window is still open for this year, which you would think, having prime Marcus Semien, prime Corey Seager on your team, and, prime Nate Eovaldi, not quite prime Max Scherzer, but a pretty good version of Max Scherzer. You also have one of, if not the best closer in the game right now, and a lineup that is starting to look a little bit more like what you expected, a rotation that is much better than you expected going forward, and does still have some, pieces that could join you in the second half of the season, the post All-Star break of the season. And maybe, just maybe, you could have a healthy DeGrom for game 1 of a postseason start, which, that alone, you get into the postseason, you have a front 3 of DeGrom, Scherzer, Eovaldi. I don't care who else is in that rotation. You have got a chance. No matter what your lineup looks like, you have got a chance with how good those guys are. So if Max Scherzer is, laying this card down, and if this is what he's saying publicly, then privately he's absolutely lighting a fire under these guys of, hey, I'm about to turn 40 at the end of this month. I will be 40 at the trade deadline. I want to win here. We can win here. We not only can, we just did, and we are going to again. That is a powerful, powerful message from a strong leader on this team. And despite what happened last night, things are looking like they're turning around for the Rangers. It felt like, I tweeted it last night that it's a little dramatic, but it felt like the Rangers almost had to be, go into the All-Star break on a 9-game winning streak. It's not quite there. The Rangers really do need to take 2 out of 3 in Houston. That is going to be a massive, massive series. At the very least, you absolutely cannot get swept in Houston. And the Astros are playing some really, really good baseball. And you need to play some really good baseball too if you were going to claw back in this race. Right now, you are 7 games back of the wild card, 6.5 back of the AL West. The Mariners are not playing great baseball. They gave themselves a pretty darn comfortable lead while you were floundering in June and May. And so if Max Scherzer is going to force his hand like this, he's going to say, no, you can't trade me. You're not going to trade me. We're going to win here, so let's do something about it. I think that is a huge difference-making moment for this Rangers squad, and that you don't have to push as hard to make up all the ground right now to prove that you are still in this race by the end of July. If you take a little bit of that pressure off and you can just let these changes that are happening, let this offense figuring things out, happen, along with the rotation being better, along with the bullpen being deeper, then you can just weather the storm. You can actually let Bruce Bochy manage like he manages at his best of, not getting too high, not getting too low, as opposed to saying, we need to go right freaking now. Everybody, this is the time to, embrace the highs and lows like it is October. That's not how you maintain a successful culture. That's not Bruce Bochy's style. It's not his MO. His MO, his success is because he is so even keel. Whether this team is underperforming, whether this team is overperforming, whether they're crazy hot or crazy cold, he is the same guy day in, day out, and that gives a calming presence to the team, and it keeps them from doing things like last night, like pushing way too hard, like trying to be absolutely perfect, and just trusting that they are good enough. Because despite the record, this team absolutely is good enough to make it to October. This show is brought to you by Stitch Fix. You know that instant confidence boost you get from an outfit that makes you look really, really good? That's what I get with Stitch Fix. You can easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new, on-trend favorites that will work for you. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want, how I want, no subscriptions required, and they send back 5 pieces just for me, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. I keep what works and I send back the rest. My stylist always sends just right pieces, and the fit is so on point, it's like they have style ESP. I don't know how they do it, but they just get me. Stitch Fix makes it so easy, and I don't like to shop, and they save me time and effort. Plus, I get outfits that make me look good and feel really good. And if you don't love something, just send it back. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Now is the best time to get started at stitchfix.com/MLB and get $100 off. That's $25 off your first 4 fixes for a limited time only. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $100 off. stitchfix.com/MLB. Must redeem within 7 days of signup. Offer does not include kit fixes. Here on Locked On Rangers, we pride ourselves to give you the latest news for your team. Whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring trading, or the playoffs, it's year-round. You know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for your unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. And be sure to mention Locked On Rangers at checkout and you'll receive a $250 discount off their services. Now, last night, not to be dramatic, but it was one of the worst kind of losses that you can have in the regular season. Ones that you're about to go and be done with that series on the West Coast. You're about to fly back to a normal time zone. They start late. You have a lot of chances, and you blow the chance to extend your winning streak and get out of there with all 3 wins against a team that's just not very good. And not to mention it being late night and those West Coast games. I swear, when you stay up for a West Coast game and it's bad, it ruins your next day. At least for me. Maybe I'm just being dramatic, and maybe I'm just sleep deprived as all heck and cranky. I think that's probably it. But this was a frustrating way to lose a season-long winning streak when the Rangers had been playing so darn well. And it was just not a great game from Michael Lorenzen, who finally got bit. He'd been a little bit lucky with the amount of base runners that he'd allowed and the lack of strikeouts that he had gotten. He had induced so many ground ball double plays, but when you're walking as many as he's been walking as of late and also hitting batters, I mean, it is just not a great recipe for success when you are not missing bats. I mean, you give up 1 home run, you get so many base runners. It's a multi-run home run. A 3-run home run ended up being in this one. 5 runs, all of them earned in this one. 4 walks, just 3 strikeouts in 5 innings of work for Lorenzen. It was just not a great day at the office for him. He'd been getting a little lucky most of this year. His BABIP luck just not striking guys out and walking over 4 batters per 9 innings, and the strikeouts being under 7 Ks per 9. It's 6.4, 4.3 walks per 9. It's not something that's sustainable. His fielding independent pitching is over 5. It's over 5. Now, his ERA is at 3.52. His expected ERA is much higher than that, in the mid-4s. But he has been getting the job done as of late. But see, this is the thing. when you're walking that tightrope, when you are not throwing strikes, when you are not, pitching deep into games like he was earlier on this season when he was limiting those walks, he was able to be a lot more effective. But he's walked at least 4 in his last 3 starts. In Baltimore, he didn't get away with it. He got tagged for 5 runs in 5 innings there. Against Tampa Bay, he was able to get away with it. 5 walks in 5 innings there. 4 walks in 5 innings against Baltimore on the 28th of June. And then in July, last start before this, 5 walks in 5 innings against the Rays, who just could not hit with runners in scoring position. He was able to pitch well and get out of it, but you're playing with fire when you do that. And I'm not suggesting that he is walking all these guys on purpose. That's obviously not the game plan. But he talked about it afterwards, about, wanting to be too fine, trying too hard to make the perfect pitch, and that resulting in him, missing out of the strike zone. Because he's like, if you're trying to make the perfect pitch on the edge of the zone, usually you miss out of the strike zone, which is better than, trying to make the perfect pitch, just throwing it down the middle and getting blasted, which ended up happening to one of his pitches by Mickey Moniak. But still, he was pressing very, very hard in this one. I don't know if he's going to be the one who is the odd man out whenever Mahle comes back, if Mahle comes back this season, which I'm pretty darn sure he will. Again, I think the timeline for that return is probably end of July. Definitely after the All-Star break. He was up to 32, 33 pitches in his last rehab start, so I'm sure 40 to 50 is the next time out. We'll see exactly how he's progressing with that. And then who knows about the exact timeline for Jacob deGrom's return, which is just such an indicative statement of, unfortunately, where he's been the last 3 years. But if I had to pick at this moment, it'd be between him and Lorenzen and John Gray of who gets, shoved into the bullpen whenever both of those guys are back and fully healthy. But it was not just Lorenzen that was trying too hard, pushing too hard in that game last night. It was also, of course, young rookie, having a very young rookie game, a bad game for Wyatt Langford, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, including 1 looking with the bases loaded and 1 out, and 1 swinging on a pitch well out of the zone with the bases loaded and 1 out, with Langford and Garcia getting 2 chances in this game with the bases loaded and doing nothing with it. That is a tough way to lose a game. It wasn't just them struggling with runners in scoring position. The Rangers were 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position, which I guess those 2 were combined 0 for 4. So mainly it was them. But still, this team left a lot of runners on base. 9 runners left on base in this one. A couple of ground ball double plays that were hit into by Lowe and Heim. Heim did have a multi-hit game. Leody Taveras was able to knock one over the fence. It had been a little while since he had his last home run, getting his 6th home run of the season. A pretty well-struck ball off of Griffin Canning was good. And then the Rangers just got, beat by a half-decent bullpen. And the revenge game of Hans Kraus, because, of course, Hans Kraus has a revenge game against the Rangers. In case you don't remember about Hans Kraus, a former second-round pick by the Rangers back in 2017, if I'm remembering correctly. I think that might have been the draft class with Cole Reagans in it. And Kraus has bounced around a little bit. The Rangers trade him away in that really, really weird deal with the Phillies for Kyle Gibson. The Rangers included a prospect when they were trading away an established major leaguer. They got Spencer Howard in that deal, and it didn't really work out for either side. Kraus has been fantastic with the Angels this year. He is a Southern California kid from Dana Hills in Dana Point, California. He's got a sub-1 ERA now, getting out of a bases-loaded jam and just pitching his butt off. Kraus was a kid who I was very, very high on as a prospect. Things didn't quite work out here in Texas. He's definitely got that back-end relievers, kind of a little bit crazy in a good way mentality. And he's been really good for them. Strickland also got them out of a jam. This was just not a great day for the Rangers bats, trying to press too hard, including Adolis Garcia trying to press just a little bit too hard right after an at-bat that I thought was going to turn around his swing, which, by the way, that home run, absolutely majestic. Exactly the kind of home run that Adolis hits when he is at his best, not just, hitting it to the opposite field, but it being a home run that was similar to the walk-off home run he hit in the 11th, which is indicative of the grown man strength that he has. When you take a fastball, a sinker, low, middle of the zone, this one was a fastball, low, middle of the zone that he turned opposite field and hit with authority for that go-ahead home run on Tuesday night? Yes, Tuesday night. Those are the kind of home runs that Adolis hits when he is going right, letting the ball travel, letting it get in on him, and using that immense strength that he has, as opposed to just trying to get a little bit too aggressive, as opposed to trying to get out ahead of everything and expand the zone more than he needs to. But something that might get his swing right, something that people have all kinds of concerns about messing up swings, is something that Adolis Garcia is going to get into: the home run derby. We're going to talk about the field there, and a guy made his major league debut last night after being a career minor leaguer. We're talking about all that and the strength of this bullpen right after this word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On Rangers is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're even talking about your rival cities. With hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find the perfect stay, even in your baseball rival's city. If the next time the Rangers go to Anaheim, you're wanting to make that trip out to Southern California, you can go check out all the different deals they've got on Booking.com, all the different places that you want to stay. If you want to go see, the Walk of Fame, if you want to go see whatever else is out there in Anaheim, maybe if you want to go catch a Dodgers game later on there, there are all kinds of different ways you can see what Booking.com has to offer. The right stay could make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. So book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. This show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the best and easiest way to find tickets for every kind of event you're going to. Whether you're looking at stuff for All-Star Weekend, whether you're looking at just regular Rangers games, sports, music, comedy, theater, all kinds of different ways to get your different events to get your tickets for. And Game Time is the place to get those tickets. They've got all kinds of deals. They got the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% the difference. If you're looking for flash deals, last minute deals, Game Time is the best way, the easiest way I have ever found to get tickets for any kind of event I'm going to. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, All-Star Week is next week, and of course, my favorite event from All-Star Week is not the Futures game, not the All-Star game itself, definitely not whatever's going on with any softball celebrity game. It is absolutely the Home Run Derby. Every year, it is something I look forward to immensely. I have loved the new format. There will be a couple of changes coming now, but the head-to-head nature of it, the timer, the drama, it makes it so much better. It has been fantastic for the last couple of years. Unfortunately, we've not gotten to see any Rangers win it in many, many moons, if ever. I'm not remembering off the top of my head any Ranger winning. I know Hamilton had that incredible display back in 2008, but he didn't win the Derby that year. We got to see Corey Seager participate. We got to see Joey Gallo participate. Neither of them had done very well. And the last time Adolis Garcia was in the Home Run Derby, he also did not do very well. But that is more, I think, due to the pitching excellence of Tony Beasley, who love Bees, love him to death. Maybe he shouldn't be the one throwing these Home Run Derby balls to Adolis Garcia this time, because Adolis Garcia was the 7th member of the team, the 7th guy to say yes to the Home Run Derby. He is the only one who is not on the All-Star team that will be participating. Here is the list of people who will be participating in the Home Run Derby this year. Mets first baseman Pete Alonso, Phillies third baseman Alec Boehm, Rangers outfielder Adolis Garcia, Orioles shortstop Gunnar Henderson, Dodgers outfielder Teoscar Hernandez, Braves DH Marcell Ozuna, Guardians third baseman Jose Ramirez, and Royals shortstop, Colleyville Heritage's own Bobby Witt Jr. Now, the way it's worked in the past, the way I think the seeding will still work this year, it is all based on who has the most home runs this year so far. And Adolis is having a bit of a dry spell in the last couple of months. If this was, ranked based on who had the most homers after April, I think Adolis would be maybe second seed, maybe the first seed. Don't remember exactly. But right now it's going to be 1 seed Gunnar Henderson versus Alec Boehm, 2 seed Marcelo Zuna versus 7 seed Bobby Witt Jr., 3 seed Jose Ramirez versus the 6 seed Adolis, and then Teoscar Hernandez versus Pete Alonso. That is how things stand as of right now with Adolis Garcia's 17 home runs. He is right there on the doorstep of Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso has 18. Teoscar Hernandez has 19. So if he goes in this weekend and hits, 2-3 home runs against the Astros and those other guys don't hit home runs, then maybe he could improve his seeding just a little bit. But I'm excited to see Adolis Garcia in this home run derby. It is a fun event. He has got crazy, crazy power. Just seeing a Rangers player in it, I think, is good. There was nobody else that was going to be asked to be in this derby. I think when Corey Seager wasn't named an All-Star, assuming there isn't some injury that he has to replace, I think if there is an injury to either one of the shortstops, then Corey Seager should be the next shortstop on the list if they don't ask Josh Smith. But still, good to see Adolis Garcia in there. I think that might get his swing back on track. There are always concerns about, this home run derby might mess up somebody's swing if they're in a groove. He's not in a groove right now. He needs to get there. And I don't know, maybe this home run derby could set him right. But either way, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, a very, very fun event every single time out there. But last night we had a Major League debut. Apologies to Mr. Daniel Roberts for taking this long to even get there to mention his one Robert, no plural. A former 21st round draft pick by the Rangers back in 2017, the same draft where the Rangers drafted Hans Kraus, who was opposite him in this game back in the second round. A kid born in Hoover, Alabama, went to Auburn, so I have difficulty saying nice things about almost any Auburn player, but Daniel Robert, you are the exception, making your big league debut at 29 years old. What a day for him. What a special moment for anybody. Daniel Robert making his big league debut after being a career minor leaguer and having a fantastic season in AAA. I mean, downright fantastic, to the point where the Rangers made this call up because he earned it. He pitched in 25 games down at Round Rock, a 2.35 ERA, and pitched in 30 2/3 innings, 40 strikeouts, just 2 walks per 9, nearly 12 strikeouts per 9, right around 4 hits per 9. He was just dominating this year. And it had been a long, long road to get here. I mean, his first minor league season was back in 2019. He didn't play in 2018. He played with Hickory. He also played with Spokane as a 24-year-old, his first year of pro ball. Then the pandemic happened. Didn't get to AA until he was 26 years old. Didn't get to AAA until he was 27 years old back in 2022. Last year was not great in Round Rock. Also 2022, not super great in Round Rock. Did participate in the Arizona Fall League as a 27-year-old back in 2022. That's not something you see very much, but this year it has been smooth sailing for him. Last year was still not a great year, but the strikeouts were there. The walks were a bit of a problem this year. Got that under control, kept the strikeouts there. He earned this big league debut. Now, he did give up a couple of runs, including a 2-run bomb, but got his first major league strikeout, an amazing moment for anybody, spending that much time in the minor leagues to finally make his big league debut. 7 years after being drafted? It's a long, long time to wait, especially when you were drafted at 22. I mean, he didn't graduate Auburn until he was 22. He only played 3 seasons. He didn't really play his freshman year at all. And This is just a nice moment, even though it didn't go the way the Rangers wanted. The rest of this bullpen is pretty darn good and pretty darn deep, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about Kirby Yates being an all-star for the second time in his big league career, having one of the best seasons of his life. We talked about when the Rangers signed him. I talked a lot about 2019, how he was absolutely incredible. That was the best season of his career by far. He was 32 years old, back with the San Diego Padres, pitched in 60 games, 41 saves, led Major League Baseball, finished top 10 in Cy Young voting. He had a 1.19 ERA, 101 strikeouts in 60 and 2/3 innings, and didn't walk much of anybody. A 1.19 ERA. I thought there's no way he's going to have a better season than that. Absolutely no way. The Rangers are hoping that he is a passable to good back-end guy. Maybe he will, vie with Leclerc for that closer spot. Maybe it'll be Robertson. Maybe it'll end up being Josh Sborz. Who knows? But once he took over that closer's role, he has been absolutely dominant. He has not blown a single save in 14 opportunities, only been saddled with a loss once, and has a 0.84 ERA in 32 and a third innings. 0.84. That is the lowest of his career, the second lowest in Major League Baseball right now, behind only Emmanuel Clase. He has been so much better than the Rangers could have ever possibly hoped, and I am so happy seeing them hit so well on a signing like this. It's especially hilarious. I know the Rangers right now are, not in the win-loss column enough to laugh at what the Astros are doing, but it's kind of hard not to laugh, at least giggle a little bit to yourself, looking at how much the Astros spent on their bullpen and how much, they thought, these three guys in the back end of their pen are going to be absolutely untouchable. And they spent $90 million on Hader, and he is just absolutely torched. Rangers spent $4.5 million on Kirby Yates, and he has been untouchable. Same for the most part for David Robertson, who cost significantly less than $90 million. And Leclerc and Sborz have been fine as well. The depth of this pen has been impressive. We'll see how much time Daniel Robert gets at the Major League level, but the Rangers clearly believe in him. They made a 40-man roster spot. They cleared up a 40-man roster spot to get him on this roster. I'm not sure exactly who would be the first guy to go down whenever Cody Bradford comes back, or whenever Tyler Mahle comes back and moves somebody to the pen. I'm not sure exactly what goes on there, but the depth that they've got in their bullpen right now, pretty much everybody there is at least mostly trustworthy. The least trustworthy guy in that pen is Jonathan Hernandez. His ERA is below 4. He's able to go out there and get you multiple innings if you need to, as the guy in the B side of your bullpen. Latz had a nice recovery outing last night after a rough couple of stints out there the last few times out, blowing some key games for the Rangers. Leclerc has looked much, much better after that really rough start to the season. He always seems to find his form as of late. Josh Sborz is healthy. Kirby Yates, like I said, is amazing. David Robertson has been amazing. Jose Urena has been amazing. So this team, I don't know if they're going to be buyers at the deadline. I honestly don't really see a spot where this team is a buyer and doesn't just hope for, positive regression from the guys they've already got on the roster, because the rotation is full of guys who are mostly pretty good. If Lorenzen is your number 5 starter, he's still a very good number 5 starter. If your 4 and 5 are John Gray and Michael Lorenzen, you're in a pretty good spot. And the Rangers are right now. They've got some depth in their pen. I know there's been some complaining about them letting some guys go, like, Justin Slayton, like trading away Emmanuel Clase, which, again, if you trade away a relief prospect for a guy with 2 Cy Youngs, even if his arm is marginally attached, that's not something you can just look back in hindsight and say, wow, what a dumb trade for the Rangers to give up that relief prospect who did end up missing most of the season due to PED suspension, and say, oh, wow, what would the Rangers be if they only had Emmanuel Clase? This team is solid. They are stacked. And with that vote of confidence from Max Scherzer, I think that is going to be a huge, huge point in their favor of them starting to keeping belief in themselves, and maybe the front office and ownership saying, okay, they just won that World Series. Look how improbable that run was. Maybe this team has another one of those runs in them this year. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.